Listen, welcome everyone to our webinar, Integrating DocuSign for e-signatures on Microsoft platforms. My name is Cian McNamara. I'm Regional Director at Codec, and I'm joined by a number of colleagues here today. We have James Duffy, Enterprise Cloud Sales at Codec, and also John McCormack, Pre-Sales Consultant, and Paul Robinson, Collaboration and Content Consultant at Codec. And our colleagues from DocuSign on the call are Philip Callan, Market Development Ireland, Cormac Murphy, Major Accounts, and David Wolfson, Senior Account Executive. So you're all very welcome, and here is what we're going to cover. We've a lot planned for a fairly short time frame, but we're certainly going to be finished well within the hour. Okay, so we'll kick off with introductions for the Codec business and the DocuSign business. I'll cover Codec, and then I'll hand over to Philip, who'll talk about DocuSign, the company, and he'll then do an overview of the product. After that, we're going to let John McCormack give us a demonstration of Dynamics 365 integration with DocuSign. Then our colleague Paul Robinson will do demo examples of Office 365 integration with DocuSign. You'll see a lot. Hopefully this will capture your interest, and hopefully you'll want to explore further, and that's why we're making a one-to-one discovery opportunity for people on this call today, and we'll tell you more about that later. And we're going to allow some time for Q&A before we wrap at the end. So if you have questions, please, because we have a large audience here, we want to keep the audience muted during the webinar delivery, but please put your questions into the chat facility and we will pick them up at the end. For GDPR purposes, I need to note that this session is being recorded, so making you aware of that. So let me tell you about Codec for starters. We're co-hosting this webinar today with our partners in DocuSign. Codec, at Codec we build digital transformation solutions for our customers, and we have the full range of IT services and business services that our customers need to help them on their digital journey. Organizations going digital need a vendor that is dependable, innovative, that has a broad range of services and has the key management skills to assist with this work. And we have all this at Codec. So really quick profile of ourselves. Codec, we're an Irish-owned business. We were established in Dublin in 1985. We have other offices, island of Ireland, in Galway, Cork, Belfast, and we have overseas offices in London, Poland, and Germany. We are 240 people, and we are growing steadily year on year. During 35 years in business, we have worked in virtually every sector. So this slide has logos for some of our major customers, and there are many organizations here that we have worked with for 15 years or more. We pride ourselves on being a full solution partner and bringing a really broad range of expertise and services to our customers. So we do infrastructure work, cloud and on-premise. We specialize in business applications, the full Dynamics range, CRM, ERP, field services, etc. We do support services and managed services on the solutions that we implement. We also provide a range of professional services and resourcing services. And finally, we are a direct licensing provider for Microsoft as a direct CSP. We have a very close relationship with Microsoft Ireland. We have a lengthy list of competencies that you can see there. We are gold partner many times over. Two particular call outs though. Codec has been Microsoft's All Up Country Partner of the Year 3 times in the last 6 years. And on the Dynamics side, we have been Dynamics partner for 5 years in a row now. And we've other independent accreditations as well. I'd particularly mention the ISO certifications that we hold, 20,000 for service management, 27,001 for information security, and 9,001 for quality management. So I've completed my intro for Codec, so I'm going to hand over to Philip now to talk about DocuSign.
Thank you, Cian. Just confirming everyone can see my slides now.
Great, Philip.
Thanks, Cian. Okay, So I'm here to talk to you today. My name is Philip Callan. I look after market development for DocuSign here in Dublin. And I'm here to talk to you today about DocuSign and how we can help you transform your systems of agreement. So first of all, most of the world knows us as the world's #1 e-signature company, which is absolutely at the core of what we do. But we've actually broadened our capabilities, and we help companies automate and connect the entire agreement process, from preparing, acting, signing, and managing agreements. So we now refer to ourselves as an agreement cloud company. So over 500,000 organizations around the world choose DocuSign to help with their agreements. And why is that? Because we believe agreements in the workplace are still costly, slow, unfriendly, and risky. So we're out to make the world more agreeable. And our goal is to make every business, whether big or small, easier to do business with, easier to do business for, and easier on the environment, or what we refer to as being more agreeable. And we're doing that by transforming the foundation of doing business, by helping our customers digitally transform the very foundation of business, and that's agreements and the agreement process. We believe businesses run on agreements, and they are everywhere. They can be found all across the front office: sales, service, marketing, HR, back office, procurement, finance, and legal. Agreements really do underpin your entire business and every business around the world. And every company, we believe, has a system of agreement, whether they know it or not. And this is just an interpretation of a system of agreement. So every company has to prepare agreements somehow. And this might be on Microsoft Word. And then, so it starts digitally, and then it has to be sent out. So it might be printed off and sent to the relevant person. Then they have to get those agreements signed somehow. So this could be with a wet signature. So it goes back to a manual process. And then it has to be scanned back into a scanner, fax machine, goes back to email, so back to a digital process. Then all these agreements have to be acted on, managed, and stored. Now, this can be a combination of tools like SharePoint or more manual processes like a filing cabinet, or some combination of the two. So we believe that this entire workflow is a company's system of agreement. Now, the problem is most company systems of agreement just aren't built for the speed of today's businesses. In most cases, they're a mess of manual and paper-based processes. And this is an example. So this is a third-party study we commissioned of our customers a couple of years ago. And it's a broad kind of overview of the cost of these broken processes. Now, the cost is high. It impacts in terms of financial costs, but also time and productivity. This may be higher or lower depending on your own unique business workflows. And we believe with e-signature, you can send, track, and sign agreements with our world's #1 electronic signature solution. You can eliminate paper and manual processes in signature. What used to take days can be completed now in hours or minutes. You can eliminate errors and duplicate work by connecting e-signature with Microsoft tools, which is what we're going to go into later in the webinar. And across our e-signature customer base, just to give you a kind of flavor of what that looks like, more than 82% of agreements are completed in less than a day, and more than 50% in less than 15 minutes. And this is something that comes up a lot with our Irish customers and clients, and it's something that we're going to focus on. We make it very easy for you to enforce compliance with regulations and business policies. A complete audit trail in the form of a certificate of completion is automatically generated and stored for each transaction. Now, this is the court admissible evidence document of who did what, when, and where in the signing process. So that's just a brief overview of DocuSign e-signature. DocuSign in Ireland, we've been here since 2015. We now have over 500 employees in Dublin, and some of our main customers include AIB and Bank of Ireland. And we plan to double in size in the next 5 years from our office in Grand Canal Docks. A couple of customer examples, Air and Sigmar. So we work with Air's HR department to reduce their paperwork and make their onboarding of their over 1,000 employees much easier. You can see a quote there from their HR team, and also from Sigmar Recruitment. Again, just emphasizing that timesheets, instead of taking hours or days to complete, they now take minutes with e-signature. And e-signature is just one part of our overall system of agreement, which we're not going to focus on too much today, but what I'd love to kind of talk to you a bit more about on a dedicated discovery call, from preparing, signing, acting on, and managing agreements with our entire agreement cloud. And e-signature is just one part of that. And as you can see, we're integrated with over 350 tools around the world, of which Microsoft is probably our biggest integration. And we're going to talk a lot about that today with SharePoint and Dynamics 365. So some of the world's best brands use DocuSign and trust DocuSign for all of their business processes, from Netflix to Salesforce to Stripe to Microsoft. And I'm just going to finish my overview today with a quote from Satya Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft. The work that Microsoft and DocuSign are doing helps our mutual customers be more productive and collaborate easily from anywhere. In today's world, so we believe that being able to collaborate with team members remotely has become crucially important across every industry. So DocuSign and Codec Ireland are here today to show you how your organization can leverage existing Microsoft tools with DocuSign to do that. So thank you. And I'm now going to pass over to John McCormack to give our Dynamics 365 presentation.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Philip. I'm just going to share my screen now. Now, Philip, can you confirm my screen's displayed?
Yes, I can see it there, John.
Fantastic. Hi, everybody. My name is John McCormack, and I am a Dynamics 365 consultant in Codec. And today I'm going to show you how easy it is to send documents for signature using Dynamics 365 and DocuSign. DocuSign's partnership with Dynamics 365 has enabled the creation of cloud-based business applications, which allow the modern workplace to accomplish more in the working day. DocuSign for Dynamics 365 is designed to be highly configurable to help your organization close business faster. This is done by routing contracts to the people you choose, allowing decision makers to approve and review contracts within minutes. Just a quick overview of Dynamics 365. Dynamics 365 is Microsoft's suite of intelligent cloud business applications. These applications enable your organization to grow and adapt to the needs of your customers. Right now, workers use multiple software and applications to do their jobs every day. Dynamics 365 is a combination of a CRM and an ERP solution in a cloud service, with purpose-built apps to help manage the specific business functions. It is not replacing systems, but bringing them together into one platform. It is designed to empower employees by enabling Office 365 productivity tools like Excel, SharePoint, and Teams, where they need it, and within the context of business processes, roles, and jobs. So after DocuSign and Dynamics 365 are successfully configured, you can sign into your DocuSign account through Dynamics 365 and access the DocuSign admin home. It is from here the administrator can manage their account information. Under the Settings tab, we can define document naming conventions and select how we would like our completed documents to be downloaded. So for example here, I just selected a combined PDF. We can also enable the routing of documents to SharePoint for storage and easy access, and also define the default email and subject settings. So we can define the email subject line and the default email message sent every time you send the document. Under the Entities tab, we can select the entities we would like to assign DocuSign functionality to. By default, the Send with DocuSign action is enabled for the account, opportunity, contact, lead, and quote entities. But of course, this functionality can be made available to any custom entities that you might have in your Dynamics 365 environment. Now I will demonstrate the Send with DocuSign custom menu. With DocuSign for Dynamics 365, we can send documents for signature directly from the records stored within our CRM. The Send with DocuSign and Get Signatures custom buttons have been added to the command bar for all the entities enabled in the Admin Center. As you see here, we can simply enable the Send with DocuSign functionality to all the entities of our Dynamics 365 environment. To illustrate this, I'm going to access the contact record within Dynamics 365, and for the purpose of this, it would be the Amy Black contact record. Contacts are individuals that we communicate with. The contact record holds core information relating to document recipients. In the center of this record, we see the timeline view, which is a chronological history of all the notes and interactions we've had with an individual. So let's imagine that we have a document that requires Amy Black's signature. To begin, we can attach a required document to Amy Black's contact record. This ensures that the document is easily accessible for future reference. So just like this, I can attach a note, and this note is going to contain a DocuSign, some Codex legal document. So now that this document is attached to the contact record, association can be performed when we enter the DocuSign menu. So now I'm going to use the DocuSign custom menu and select Get Signatures. By selecting the Get Signatures button, a DocuSign window is opened. All required documents that have been assigned to the contact record will be added to the DocuSign envelope. All SharePoint documents will also be added if enabled. As this is loading, I might just explain to you the process that will be happening. In this DocuSign window that is loading, we are prompted to create or complete a DocuSign envelope. An envelope object is the overall container for a DocuSign transaction. It contains one or more documents that will be signed electronically, information about the sender, in this case it's Arnold Palmer, information about the recipients, including all other objects that are associated with those recipients. And for the purpose of this demonstration, the recipient is Amy Black. The status information that tracks delivery and signature processes are also contained within the envelope. So as we can see here, the document, the Codex legal document that I've just attached to Amy Black's contact record is associated with this envelope. So alternatively, we can assign documents manually. We can do this from our personal drive using the upload button. We can also do this using a template which is predefined in our DocuSign account, but we can also use cloud providers. So we can get documents from clouds via Dropbox, OneDrive, and other cloud storage platforms like Google Drive as well. Multiple recipients can be added to a document. For the purpose of this one, I'll add Amy Black. Lucy Cannon is associated as she is stored in our system as Amy Black's direct line manager. We can control the actions that we would like our recipients to have over a document by selecting the Needs to Sign button. From here, we can define whether we want our recipient to have a Needs to Sign functionality, an in-person signature, that they just receive a copy. Maybe they just need to view the document before it's signed. We can also add signs with witness. So we have multiple different signature functionality embedded in the DocuSign. When we add multiple recipients, we can also set a signing order. And this means the emails will be delivered and must be completed by certain users in order for the next user to sign and review the document. We can also add access authentication. This will allow the sender to secure the document with a passcode, which will be sent to the recipient prior to receiving the email containing the document. We can also add identity verification and a private message as well. So when our envelope is packaged up, a recipient added, it is time to now proceed with the next button. Now we view our document in the Add Fields view. We can assign fields to be assigned by the recipient by simply dragging and dropping. So I might just start by adding the recipient's name to the top of the email. These are dynamic fields and they'll be updated with the information that we held in Dynamics 365. And then I'll add a signature to the end. If we had multiple recipients that require signature, we can manage the user by via the drop-down menu in the top left-hand corner with my mouse is hovering under. So this means we can place exactly where we would like each recipient to sign in a structured order. Now, I'll just proceed and we can finally press the send button. Now, so when I send an envelope, the DocuSign platform sends a notification email to the recipients listed in the envelope. This email can be sent to recipients in a specific order or to all recipients at once. Now we will see that Amy Black has an email in her account. The email states that Arnold Palmer has sent you a document for you to review and sign. Amy Black can then select and review this document. Now, Amy Black's information has been translated to the DocuSign envelope. And of course, Amy Black can sign this document. Amy Black can select a style, draw her own signature, or upload a signature that she might have saved within her cloud storage. But for example, she can change a style to adapt to her signing needs. We select Adopt and Sign, and now you can see Amy Black has signed this document and initialed it. The timestamp is also carried through. A DocuSign account is needed to create and send envelopes, but recipients and signers do not need an account, as signing is always free. Of course, Amy Black is offered to create a free DocuSign account where she can store all of her signed documents in DocuSign. I will just pop back to Amy Black's email address and email inbox, and we can note that Amy Black's completed document has been downloaded. The PDF that we distinguished in the settings earlier has been configured, and Amy Black can download this PDF and store her signed document in her own personal file drive or on a SharePoint cloud drive. I'm now going to show you Arnold's email address, and this will show you guys the tracking functionality. I'm now switching to Arnold's email address, who was the sender and received email updates informing him that Amy has both viewed the document and that Amy has then officially signed the document and completed it as well. Once again, the PDF is able to be pulled down and tracked. I'm going to move back to Amy Black's contact record to show you what sort of information was stored within Dynamics 365. Under the DocuSign transactions, we have a list of all of our transactions between Arnold Palmer and Amy Black. As you can see here, we've created documents, completed documents, and sent documents, all in different stages of our relationship with Amy Black. These DocuSign transactions are saved and stored within the contact record in Dynamics 365, but it can also be saved against multiple other entities related to this contact. If we move back to the timeline view, we also can note that all parties have successfully signed the please review and sign document. So this shows that we now have all information about our customers' signatures at a single glance in Dynamics 365. Now I'm going to talk to you about how DocuSign can also integrate with your common workflows, common Dynamics 365 workflows to automate common tasks and processes. For example, we could create a workflow to automatically send a document when a field in your system changes, or even send a document as a part of a multiple-step business process flow. I'm going to move to the opportunities entity to illustrate this. Now, so here is an example of a workflow here's an example of a business process flow, which could be a part of an opportunity entity. Business process flow is a guided set of procedures that a user can follow in order to nurture an opportunity until it's closed, has won or lost. The business process flow requires us to complete a number of steps before we can proceed to the next step. From here, when an opportunity reaches the close stage, we will trigger a workflow to retrieve a document from Amy Black, who is the associated record. This is done by taking advantage of DocuSign's functionality and constructing a workflow. The workflow is simply created, stating if closed, and if the opportunity stage equals closed, then create an envelope. The envelope is created using a templated DocuSign document. So the recipient's signature spots and naming conventions have all been predefined. We then add the recipient associated to this opportunity, and then finally, it sends the document automatically. When this document is signed, our opportunity can finally be closed, won or lost. Thank you, everybody, for listening to me today. I'm now going to pass over the screen to Paul, to Paul Robinson, who is our SharePoint, who will illustrate the dynamics, the SharePoint and DocuSign integration. Thank you very much.
Thanks for that, John. Hi all, my name is Paul Robinson. I'm a content and collaboration consultant with Kodak, and I'm going to take you through 2 examples of integrating DocuSign with Office 365. Both of these examples are based on experiences we've had with customers recently, so they're very much real-world examples. So the first example we're going to talk about is an ad hoc report that needs to be signed, and the second example is a more complex document structure that needs to be signed, and it needs to be signed and stored in SharePoint. So let's have a look at the first example. So the scenario 1, we have a company has a process whereby a weekly report needs to be signed by a manager prior to being filed away. Before the COVID-19 pandemic, this process was completely manual. They just run around the office with printed documents and get a signature and file it away. During the pandemic, this process remained manual and was sent by courier to be signed and returned for filing. Of course, it's now an extremely expensive and time-consuming process, but they had no option, they had to do it. So DocuSign to the rescue here. So DocuSign can completely transform this process and make it as simple as a right mouse click to send the report to the manager for signing, signing digitally, that is. So in the demo we're going to see, we'll see the report has already been prepared and is stored in SharePoint Online. So prior to this, DocuSign has been installed, and to install DocuSign in SharePoint, it's a 5-minute process, actually less than 5 minutes. The report will then be sent to the manager from SharePoint to collect the manager's signature digitally. And after the manager's signature is captured, the report will be available in SharePoint in PDF format. So our document is stored away then, and it meets all the legal requirements of this this process. And as we'll see, there's an audit trail built into the document as well. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to jump over to SharePoint, and here is our ad hoc report. It's in a standard SharePoint document library here. So all I got to do is select the document in question, and I have 2 ways I can launch it. I can use the DocuSign tab up here by clicking on Get Signatures, or I can click the 3 dots here and click Get Signatures with DocuSign that way. So it doesn't matter which you select. So I'm going to select this one here, and this is going to open up DocuSign for me, which can take a minute or 2. So we can see the DocuSign window is now loading. Just to make you aware, guys, we're not going to probably wait for the DocuSign process to complete because it can take a minute or 2. So what I'll do is I'm going to show you a previous example. Okay, so here's my ad hoc report, and I can view that, and there it is. It's just filled with dummy text at the moment, but imagine this was some kind of report. And then down here, I can simply specify who I want to sign this to. So in this case, I'm going to send it to myself. That's all I need to do. And then at the bottom here, I click Send Now. Now, DocuSign is going to realize that I've just sent it to the account that's currently logged into DocuSign. So it's going to take me straight to signing the document, which is great. If I jump over to my email, I will also have got an email asking me to sign this document. And just to be aware, signers of documents don't need DocuSign accounts. So you can send this to anyone. They don't need to be part of your tenant or anything like that. Okay, so I'm going to click continue here, and here's my document. I'm going to review it. Yep, all looks good. And all I got to do is pull my signature onto the part of the document where I want it to appear. And that's it done. I can click finish. This bit I don't need to do, so I click no thanks there. And the document is now signed. The document is now signed digitally. So let's go back to SharePoint and let's have a quick look in our DocuSign folder, and we'll see if that's in there yet. And it's not. Not to worry. Let's not wait. Here's one I prepared earlier, as they say in the cooking shows. So let's open that up, and you'll see there's the document. There's my signature, the date. And here's some audit trail information. And this audit trail information will stand up in court. So yeah, that's our first example. So what we did there, we took a process that was being sent by courier for manual signing, and we turned it into like something that took less than 5 minutes. Okay, in our second example then, so in the second example, we have a company and they're experiencing high staff turnover, putting pressure on the HR department to recruit faster. One of the bottlenecks in the organization is the contract signing process, which is sent by post to the employee for their signature and returned by post to the company. And you won't believe how often this actually happens. So DocuSign can help here because, as I said earlier, DocuSign supports sorry, I don't know if I said this earlier, but DocuSign can support very simple documents like our first example, which was just a simple report, or it can support much more complex documents like a contract where you would want to insert dynamic data like the name, the address, the position, the salary, all the other details relating to a contract. So yeah, this example is about a new hire being managed by the HR process. So yeah, DocuSign supports complex document structures. We could also improve this process by using Power Apps to generate the contract, and then MS Power Automate to alert HR when the contract is sent back by the new employee. So in this situation, you know yourself with SharePoint, well, maybe you don't, but if there's no automation there, HR will have to come and check and see if the new employee has sent back that contract. This can be time consuming. It will be much better if an email alert was triggered when that contract is created on SharePoint. So this is something we can use MS Power Automate for. It's a workflow tool. So yeah, the demo. The first thing I'm going to show you is Power Apps and how it could be used to make this process even simpler. We're then going to use a contract template, which is already stored in DocuSign and is easily accessible through SharePoint. Then we're going to get this document and we're going to send it to a manager within the organization to sign digitally first, which is very common. And then we're going to send it on to the new staff member for their digital signature. The digital signature will then be stored in SharePoint for us. And when that file is created on SharePoint, it's going to actually trigger a workflow, which will result in an email alert going to HR to let them know that a new contract has been received. Okay, so that's our example. Let's have a look at that in action. So in this scenario, sorry, first thing I want to do, I wanted to show you Power Apps. Okay, so this is a very simple Power App that I put together for this example. What this is list data that it's reading in from that list we were just looking at. So what we would do here for HR is we would click create a new item, and then they supply the information that's required on the contract. So this would be the dynamic information that the contract needs, like the new employee name, the address, the start date, the position, and of course there'll be some other fields required. As soon as they submit that information, it will go to a list in SharePoint. When the information is in that list in SharePoint, it will then trigger a workflow which will actually generate the contract and insert that dynamic information into the contract, the name and address, start date, position, etc. Power Power Automate will then take that generated contract and send via DocuSign to the staff member for signing. And when that contract comes back, HR will get an alert to say that that contract has been signed. From HR's point of view, that is extremely simple. They don't have to validate any of the information because we can build our business logic into this Power App form, which will enhance that process further. But we don't have that example. Excuse me. We're not going to run through that example today. That's just something that we could do. The example that we're going to look at is a pre-prepared template that's in DocuSign already. So I'm going to click Use a Template here. And this is going to show me my templates. So I'm going to let that open up. Okay, so this is going to launch this contract in DocuSign for me. As you'll see, when this opens, a lot of the dynamic information is already populated. That's just because we needed to do this demo fast. But as I'll show you when it opens, it would be very simple to map out any of the fields in here. So here is our contract. And as I say, like the name, the address, the position, the commencement date, the remuneration, etc., that should all be dynamic data. And we can turn that into a templated fields very simply in DocuSign. But we haven't for this example, just to keep it quick. Okay, so we also have a workflow built into DocuSign here, and the DocuSign is using roles. So the first role is that of the employer. So we want a manager within the organization to sign this document before it's sent to the staff member. We then going to send it to the employee. So I'm going to take on the role of the manager in the organization, and then I'm going to send it to one of my colleagues to take on the role of the employee. So that's it. There's the two people involved that this document will go to. It'll go to me first, then it's going to go to James in that sequence. And we'll see at the end, the signatures will be stacked. So I'm going to click on Send now. And I can click on Sign now, because it's recognizing that I've just sent it to myself, pretty much. Now down here, I've actually inserted where the signature is to be inserted, and I've done the same when it goes to the employee. It's going to be here. So I've lined up the fields. And as I said earlier, it would be very simple to make these dynamic fields as well. So the person involved can type in information here based on a role. So the role of the employee will require that they supply their name, their address, their position. The role of the employer in the organization is to supply this information, not the employee. Okay, so I'm excuse me. I'm going to just click this to sign the document, and you'll see my signature was inserted. That is my typed signature. That's why it's so terrible looking. When I say typed with the mouse kind of thing. And then I'm going to click Finish. And this is asking me, do I want to blah, blah, blah. No, I don't want to do anything like that. So DocuSign should, but it's going to show me all my documents, etc. So I don't want to go in there at the moment. I want to go back to SharePoint, and I want to look at the DocuSign documents, and I want to see if that one is in there yet. There's the one from the example we did earlier. It's finally appeared. Okay, so here's one of the employment contracts that I did earlier. Again, here's one we prepared earlier. And we'll see, you can see my contract, my signature is inserted along with the date, along with my colleagues, and they're stacked. And then there's some audit trail information in there also. So we can see when it was sent, when it was signed, what the sequence it went to, etc., etc. So everything that I need is there. That's great. And if I jump, excuse me, if I jump over to my emails for a second and down to webinar, here is the email alert that came in. We can't actually wait for the live one, unfortunately, because it can take up to 5 minutes for it for that to occur. So just to explain what's going on there, my simple workflow is waiting for a document to be generated in this specific folder. It then looks to see if the word contract exists in the file name, and if it does, it will fire an email alert off to the HR department, which is me, with a link to the document. So if I click on the link, it will open up the document, and there we go. So HR never needs to move the document from this site. We want to keep it here, and we want one source of the truth, etc., when it comes to our documents. Okay, so that is my example. So thanks for listening. I'm going to pass back to Cian now.
Thanks, Paul. You can see my screen here with the booking form.
Yes, I can. Yes.
Okay, super. Well, listen, John, Paul, thanks for those excellent demos, and we've covered a lot and hopefully given people on the webinar a really good sense of how DocuSign works with certain Microsoft platforms. We've covered the Dynamics examples and we've covered the Office 365 examples as well. So a lot done there. For people who'd like to explore further with us, please book a discovery call, and it's a very simple process. We have sent a link, a bit.ly link on the chat, and you can follow that to get to this form. If you have any problems following the link, just email us at info@codic.ie. But the form here is, well, some details about yourselves, your company, how you currently manage contracts and agreements in the company, what Microsoft tools you are currently using, and tell us, how you would like to incorporate e-signatures in your business, which Microsoft platforms you would integrate DocuSign with. Tell us about the business processes that are relevant here to e-signatures, and give us a sense of your timelines as well, please. And any other comments and feedback, we'd be happy to get that as well. Okay, so we've moved fairly smartly through the agenda, and we've captured some questions in the question facility as we've moved through. So with the help of my colleagues, I'm going to get these addressed. So there's the set. I've just picked them up out of the questions box. I thought it would be handier just to show it again here. Okay, well, maybe we'll work from top to bottom. So the first question, a specific requirement is that we need everything stored by DocuSign, as in the cloud, to be stored in cloud servers within the EU. Can we get this confirmed? So Philip, I might ask you to pick up on that question. Is that okay?
Yeah, I'm going to actually ask David Wolfson, my colleague, to take that one. So David, if you want to maybe.
Yeah, just want to make sure you can hear me there, can you? Yeah, perfect. Look, nice to meet you all. Hope you're keeping well. So just in relation to the questions there itself, data protection, anything like that, all the data is stored in the EU. Our data centers are Paris, Frankfurt, and Amsterdam. We own our own data centers. If there are any more questions regarding that, look, feel free to get in contact. We can send you our trust and assurance packet, and it'll detail all of our ISO accreditations, bank rate security, etc. like that. Next question there, just regarding, come back to the other one, just regarding the legalities. So regarding the legalities, yes. I suppose businesses aren't using these if it's not legally binding. You like see your Bank of Ireland, your AIBs, for example. There is an Electronic Signatures Act that was passed called EIDAS, and that's obviously that electronic signatures are legally binding within the EU, and also outside the EU as well. So the answer to that is yes. Just this second one there, I'll just have a quick scan of that. I think that might be for a codec just regarding where the documentation is signed on the work.
Yeah, I'll come back in there, David. Yeah, so the second question on the list here, and this relates to the Dynamics demo where John worked with the Amy Black contact. Is the signed document linked to both the contact and her company, or is it just linked to the contact? So John McCormick, you might take that question.
Of course. So the document can be linked to both. It is set up by configuration. Dynamics 365 is very configurable, and through association, we could have assigned the document to Amy Black and her organization, maybe just to her organization, or just to Amy Black itself. So it can work anyway.
Perfect. Cheers, John.
Thanks, John. And there was another question. Actually, I haven't got it up here on the slide, but I'm just going to pick it up off the questions list. And John, you might
see there's just one there as well regarding the dental clinics. If you want me to just
do you want to take that, David?
Yeah. I'll just get these through really quickly. Yeah. So just regarding that, I suppose we can't speak on behalf of life companies, insurance companies regarding that. Yes, obviously they are legally binding, and we've been working a lot in Ireland this year with COVID-19, so the likes of Irish Life, Royal London, Aviva, Zurich, and they've all partnered up with DocuSign and their brokers in Ireland to use DocuSign for about life, pensions, and mortgages. I obviously don't know which providers maybe you've been speaking with. I know pensions maybe last year that they weren't as forthcoming, whereas this year now they've been more opened up and they're allowing the brokers to use DocuSign for like pensions. So maybe just speak with your provider again, is all I can say. If you have any questions or want to follow up with ourselves, we obviously can't give you legal advice, but we can obviously assure you, and maybe you can let us know what company you're actually dealing with, and hopefully we can kind of steer you on the right path.
Okay, thanks, David. And there was one other question I wanted to get covered here, and I think John McCormick, you might be able to help me with this one. What type of API plan do you need to be able to integrate with Dynamics?
So you can use multiple web API providers. I know the Azure APIs are recommended, so you can extend your platform further. The customer engagement web API, for example, provides a development experience that can be used across a wide variety of programming languages, platforms, and devices. The web API implements the Open Data Protocol versions 4.0 and OASIS standard for building and consuming RESTful APIs.
Okay, thanks, John. I have another question here, which I might pass to Philip at DocuSign. It's not on our list here on the slide, but I have it in the question box. How is the content of the document being signed protected from being viewed by the wrong person? Is there an audit trail of views? Is that something you could cover, Philip?
I can take that, Phil, if you want.
Yeah, please.
Yeah. So look, it's like anything. Just regarding that question, I could send you something in the post. Like, for example, I could send Philip something in the post today, and Philip's away on holidays, for example, and his wife, his partner, she signs off on behalf of Philip. Obviously, you're taking that signature for what it is. So with DocuSign, if I was to send Philip an e-signature contract today to sign, there is, I suppose, no way. Someone could obviously log into Philip's email address and sign that document. However, we do also have authentication measures that can also reduce that. So we could add a 2FA SMS PIN code. So prior to Philip opening that contract today, there would be a barrier to entry. That barrier to entry would be a unique digit PIN code that's sent to his mobile phone. We could have an access code. So for example, the access code could be codec 2020. You would obviously need to share that with the signer prior to opening it. And another one that we just launched recently, which is more targeted toward financial services and real estate sector, is ID verification. And the recipient is prompted to take a picture of their ID prior to opening it, and obviously we'll verify using AI if it's genuine or fake, and obviously the name needs to match up to the signer at the point of signing. That's just kind of more standard electronic signatures. There are AES and QES, but that's probably enough for today's call.
Okay, thanks, David. I have a question here, which I think is probably for Paul Robinson. So Paul, hopefully you can take this one. So Paul, you mentioned not moving the document from SharePoint. Is it possible to copy it elsewhere?
Oh yes, I mean we're just talking about good practice there. I mean, within an organization, what we always say is keep one source of the truth. What we want to move away from is a situation where people are emailing soft copies of documents around, then they'll do a bit of work on that and send it on to somebody else. And suddenly you've got 3 or 4 versions of a document, all with work in it, that all has to be merged back into one again. So it's just for that reason we would suggest you send a link to the document in an email rather than a copy, a soft copy of an email. But there's no reason why you can't. You can copy the document anywhere you want. We're just talking good practice here.
Thanks, Paul. And another question for DocuSign. Is it a validated system in line with pharmaceutical requirements, GMP? Is there a validation package in line with FDA requirements for electronic signature?
Yes, so we have a product. Actually, pharma is one of our probably core markets within the US. I think it's 13 out of the top 15 work with DocuSign, and probably a lot more in the EU. And we have a product called DocuSign 21 CF4 Part 11. So any pharma companies on the call will be familiar with it. It adheres to the regulatory compliance under the FDA. So if they do work with the US, yes, we do meet that requirement. And the GMP, which I think is the EU one, I can verify that for you, but I'm pretty sure that everything's adhered to as well within the EU.
Great, thanks, Philip. And then another question for DocuSign: when signatures are done using a mouse, they will naturally vary. How can you compare signatures, for example, for fraud or anti-money laundering purposes? How would that work from a legal viewpoint?
Yeah, perfect. So when someone is signing today for the first time, so for example, if I'm the sender today sending a contract to Joe Blogs at gmail.com, Joe Blogs has never signed with DocuSign before. So as a first-time signer of DocuSign, what you'll notice is the signer as a first-time are asked to adopt a signature. They can either draw with their mouse. If they're on their mobile phone, they can just squiggle with their finger. Or what will also happen is DocuSign will give you Joe Blogs a couple of calligraphy styles. They have the option to select one, or they can change another one. It doesn't really matter for DocuSign if you squiggle with your finger, if you draw with your mouse, or if you select one of the pre-selected styles that we give you. What you'll notice is when you select one of them, there is a unique code associated to that. That is how we identify the signer, and that is by their name and their email address. So if Joe Blogs at gmail.com ever goes to sign with DocuSign again, that will be the signature that they have adopted, and that is the legally binding term. It's by their name and their email address. So that is actually what would held up. And then obviously the likes of the audit trail would also be recorded on the certification of completion. If there was passcodes or anything like that was also recorded, that'll all be detailed on that certification. If you were ever checked.
Perfect. Great. Okay. And the next question here: when the DocuSign via CRM pulls the doc from SharePoint for signing, when signed, does it put it back in SharePoint automatically? John McCormick, do you want to have a go at that one? Do we still have John?
Yeah, is this a SharePoint question, is it?
Well, it was CRM integration with SharePoint.
Yeah, can you repeat it for me, please?
Yeah, when the DocuSign via CRM pulls the doc from SharePoint for signing, after it's signed, does it put it back in SharePoint automatically?
Yes, it does. Yeah, so so as I mentioned earlier, Dynamics 365 is just that centralized location for all of your O365 products. And of course, it works just like that. It's just an easy interface to manage. So when you update a document from SharePoint through Dynamics, it will update the document in SharePoint too.
Okay. And then I have a question or a comment here, which is the last item. I cannot believe that people are still assuming that draw a picture of your name is a better measure of a recording entry than a password protected email address. Does anyone from DocuSign want to take that question?
Yeah, I think it's just, I think Douglas is kind of just stressing the, I suppose the benefits of, I think most organizations now are kind of looking at digital signature and seeing the kind of more secure and yeah, the security that goes behind it. So yeah, I mean, we would kind of agree in that regard that there's more security, more trust behind electronic signature than, I guess, just you know, a picture or a squiggle on a page. So yeah, I think Douglas is just kind of looking at electronic signature from that regard. Not really a question, but just a statement, I suppose. But yeah.
Okay, so no disagreement there. Okay, well look, I believe we've covered all of the questions there. If I actually missed anything, we will follow up with that in our follow-up email. So we will be following up by email with everybody who's attended here today to remind you of the link to the Discovery workshop and to send you a recording of the webinar. And we'll also cover any questions that we haven't managed to address during this session. But at this stage, I'm going to wrap. Thank you very much for joining us. Thanks for giving us your attention. And please, if you want to explore further, book the Discovery one-to-one call with us. And we have 10 slots to fill between now and the end of July. So have a good day. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Cian.
Thanks, guys.